try to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets, cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. I can't take no loss, my team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
What's going on? Brett Breaks Things, Tuesday show. Yeah, you know what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to jump right into it. The media, you know, I haven't seen anybody really doing a deep dive into some of the more interesting things that happened in this meeting between Trump, Zelenskyy, and these European leaders. Okay? Because a lot did happen and a lot was said. And these European leaders, man, they're savvy. They're diplomats of the highest order, and they get it. And they took their shots carefully, right? They showed a united front. And the meeting was mostly about security guarantees for Ukraine, but other things were said. And they did have a united front. They were all on the same page, and we'll talk about what page that was that the European leaders came in on. But a couple of them took light jabs, a little off script, that really betrayed just how much they get this situation. Just little jabs that let you know that some of these leaders, they get it. They get what Putin's doing. They get how much Ukraine needs their united front right now. And they understand Trump's role in all of this, which is an important point. They understand not only Trump's role in this, but how to treat Trump. They get it. They watched Putin rub his belly and get everything he wants. It's a good tactic. The only prerequisite for this tactic is swallow your pride on a grand stage. Pander. Patronize the world's most powerful man on a grand stage. You just got to be able to stomach that. If you can stomach that, you might be able to make some headway with Donald Trump. So here's Zelenskyy showing up. This is a far cry. A far cry from a literal red carpet and a bomber flyover that Putin received when he got to Alaska. The grand welcome for Putin. Not quite that grand welcome, but there was a welcome. Audio cutting in out. There's Trump waiting for Zelenskyy. He didn't get a ride in the Beast. Zelenskyy didn't get that ride in the Beast. Trump's personal armor car. But there he is. Hey, what's going on? Glad you can make it.
President Trump showing your message to the people of Ukraine as world leaders gather here today.
Give him a hug, a handshake. Yeah, come here, bud. You're my bud. Here, little guy. All right. Okay, I mean, it wasn't, there's nothing really to poke at that, except it wasn't the welcome that the dictator received. That's all we can really say about that. I don't think that's very political. I think that's very obvious. One leader received a different reception than the other. That's all. That's all we're going to say about that. Zelenskyy and Trump did a little presser together. They did a little presser together from this gaudy. Just look at how gaudy this room is now. It's really sad. But Zelenskyy and Trump sat down for a little presser before we get to the greater meeting with all the leaders.
And, is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed, and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week. I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason. A big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
Well, since you brought it up, Don. Yeah, Donnie, a lot of people have been killed over the last week. As a matter of fact, right after this meeting. We're talking hours after these leaders left the meeting here. Russia attacked again. 270 drones as well as missiles. They attacked a targeted energy and transport infrastructure in the industrial city of Kremenchuk in central Ukraine's Poltava region. So an immediate attack, like 1,400 residents without power, an immediate attack right after this meeting. So keep that in mind. I think that's some good context for this meeting and how seriously Putin takes it and how necessary it was for Don to not come away with a ceasefire from the Alaska meeting. You see the effects immediately. Is this the end of U.S. support for Ukraine is what that reporter asked. That's not loaded. You want loaded. I'll give you loaded in a second. I'll give you loaded in just a little bit. But yeah, that was a little loaded question as well. And even Trump said, no, it's not over. War's not over. People are still dying. Let's make a deal. He is talking a deal, and we'll get to the deal that may be made in terms of this Article 5-like agreement and the security of Ukraine. We'll talk about it. But more was said. This guy, this is the stuff that, what I'm going to play you now is the stuff that you hate about me playing Trump, but I got to do it. The major media outlets are not giving you what our president is saying to the world stage with Zelenskyy next to him. They're not giving it all to you. It's important for you to be armed. And look, we're going to keep it moving, but this dude is disappointing on so many levels.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelenskyy here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be, look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war.
There it is.
He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
And to that point, President Zelenskyy, are you prepared?
We never, ever hear other leaders come to the White House and start talking about past regimes. Merz isn't out here. Frederick Merz isn't out here like, yeah, we've got this immigration problem in Germany, but it's all Merkel's fault. Is that terrible Merkel? It's her problem. Most terrible president ever out here within a fake accordion. We don't hear this from other leaders. Why don't we ever hear them out here being petty, attacking prior regimes? It's just so, I get uncouth. I don't know. It's petty. It looks bad. It's weakness. You're doing whataboutism on the grandest stage. It's weak. It's not bigly at all. It's weak. It's what it is. And you want a loaded question? You want an actual loaded question? Leave it to the Doocies, man. Leave it to Ducey. Listen to this.
And to that point, President Zelenskyy, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners, and we will do our best for this. So, I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Okay, so that type of question makes us look bad. And no, he didn't get attacked this time. It was a much warmer reception for Zelenskyy all around. It was a much warmer meeting all around. No doubt. But to ask him, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainians to their death? That's what Ducey asked him. Are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainians to their death? He didn't choose this war, Ducey. He didn't choose it. This wasn't his decision. He would rather not be doing this. I promise you. I'm going to speak for Zelenskyy real quick. He doesn't want to be doing this. He'd rather not. Okay? It's Putin's war. It's an invasion. The more important question that should be asked of Ukrainians is, are the Ukrainian people willing to lay down for the Russian invaders? In there lies your answer, Doocy. In there. Trump continues. We got to get through this. We got to get through this guy.
Mr. President, Vladimir Putin mentioned that the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars.
Stop. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's where he said 6 wars. Oh, that's where it was. I stopped him early because I have a hard time listening to him as much as you guys do. I do. But since he's going to bring it up, I stopped 6 wars is what he claims. I stopped 6 wars. We did a little bit of a fact checking on this, and I got some response because I played another clip of him on social media. I got some responses. People were just like, what is this dude talking about? 6 wars. That's what he's about to get into. I stopped 6 wars. And by the way, she asked him, hey, Trump, the root causes, can you address the root causes of this war? No, Trump has no clue. The geopolitics involved in the Donbass region. Wrong guy to ask. Wrong guy to ask. He has no idea. Quick overview. I explained it yesterday. Stalin's regime was so damn brutal, millions of Russians were forced to flee the country. Where millions of them ended up was the Donbass region of Ukraine. That is why, even to today, 2/3 of the Donbass region speaks Russian. In 2010, Viktor Yanukovych, a Russian puppet, ran for office in Ukraine. And 90% of people in the Donbass region voted for him at that time because they felt a kinship to him. They felt they could relate to him. That changed. After Yanukovych was kicked out in 2014, Russia started an insurgency and a conflict in that region over the loss of his puppet and devastated the Donbass region. They have hated him since then. He is claiming the Donbass is mine because so many Russians were forced to flee our brutal regime, and where they fled to is mine as well. All of it's mine. Wherever Russians flee due to our aggression is mine. That's his stance. That's the root cause. He wants the Soviet Union back great again. That's the cause. Let's be clear. But as far as Trump stopping 6 wars, we can give him credit for 2. I'm willing to give him credit for 2. Armenia and Azerbaijan, they signed a peace agreement in the White House. That's one for Donnie. That was just this year. They signed a peace agreement stopping their conflict, their war. It was an actual war. That's an important, thing to get straight here. It's an important point because many of these aren't wars at all. You can't stop a war if they're not a war. He also, you can give him credit for the DRC and Rwanda. They've had a conflict. They also brokered a peace agreement at the White House in June. That's 2. The rest of them, he claims Iran and Israel, that was never a war. And you were involved, and it's only a ceasefire. Cambodia and Thailand, they agreed to a conditional ceasefire. It was immediately tested. Both sides are claiming conflict continues today, and it was never a war. It was a conflict. Egypt and Ethiopia, that's a standoff over Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It's a dam that both of these countries are claiming ownership of, and that conflict is very much raging today. No peace agreement, never was a war, and they're still in conflict over it today. And Serbia and Kosovo, there was a limited agreement for for peace between these two that Trump did broker, the administration did broker, that has long since expired, and Serbia and Kosovo remain at each other's throat today. So of the 6 he could be possibly talking about, 4 of them aren't wars. And 3 of them are continuing today. I'll give you credit for 2. I'll give you credit for the DRC and Rwanda. And I'll give you credit for Armenia and Azerbaijan. 2, you big liar. You're a liar. He's a liar. The guy lies. So they talk about an Article 5 resolution. We're going to get into a bigger stage. We're going to play a little bit more Trump and Zelenskyy, and then we're going to get into what some of the other world leaders were saying. And I think you'll see, as I do, that they have clear eyes on this and clear goals, at least for now. Now, one thing you will hear absent from this conversation with all of these leaders is Ukraine giving up the Donbass region. They don't want to touch it. It was strategic. It was strategic, and it may have helped this go okay for now.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
We'll be involved. We'll be involved. And he expounded a little bit more, and we'll get to that. But he says we'll be involved. And Zelenskyy immediately responds to that.
President, last week,
Brian, go ahead, Brian.
Yes, sir. I've got a question for each of you.
Yes.
First of all, Mr. President Zelenskyy, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said to the one that attacked you last time.
Yeah.
See, now he's in.
I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelenskyy.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
Maybe yours is much better.
Okay. Okay. So Zelenskyy takes that opportunity to say, yeah, I have a suit on. You have the same thing you were wearing on. I look better than you now. And the reporter that he was talking to was Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, which, interesting little aside. Anyway, so we're talking about U.S. involvement in this Article 5 like agreement. Now, when I had heard about U.S. involvement in my head, I wish I had said it yesterday, but I didn't want to jump the gun and sound stupid about, I didn't want to guess, right? But in my head, I was thinking, he's going to sell them weapons. He did it already. He pulled all that funding. And then when he returned the funding and the strategic military assistance to Ukraine, the return of the arms came in the form of him selling missile batteries to other countries who then gave it to Ukraine. And I said, that's fine. At the time I said, that's fine. If that's how if he has to work a deal, as long as weapons get to Ukraine, I don't care how he works it. The American people have footed a huge portion of the bill to help defend Ukraine. We have. And if this is a way to get some of these other countries to step up a little bit, what do I care about their bank accounts? That's fine. They can pay a little bit more for American weapons to get to Ukraine, however they get to Ukraine. And I feel similarly here because I should have said it, because he's committing, they're in talks, for anywhere between $90 and $100 billion worth of weapons to be bought by Germany and other countries to be given to Ukraine in the defense of this Article 5-like agreement. Okay, so, Keir Starmer had said, we'll do some troops. We'll do some troops right away. A couple other countries had said, we may. They wanted to be careful about what they committed to. But now here's Trump. Hey, I'll sell you guys all the weapons you want. I got weapons. You got cash. And again, I don't have a problem with this. I wish he would just give the money to Ukraine. A better situation in my eyes would be the American people are all in to stop a dictator from invading a sovereign nation. I'd like to just be all in without caveats or deal making. But if it's deal making he has to do, and those weapons are going to get to Ukraine, then so be it. Then so be it. He is selling weapons once again to other European nations to give to the defense of Ukraine. So be it. I don't have a giant problem. So now we're going to get to the portion of the show where we talk about some of these other European leaders. We're going to give you sounders, things they say, Trump's response. They took a photo together, and it was kind of awkward as they just didn't know how to line up. Like, they should have got a wedding photographer for this. This is terrible. Like, wedding photographers get you all perfectly lined up by height to crescendo with the tallest at top. I don't know what they were doing. Yeah, they're not gonna grab their arm and just jostle them around like wedding photographers do. They just grab you, manhandle you. You over here. You over here. Oh, you're the bride's mother. Get over here. But there they are. Oh, just so stoic. Just so stoic. Okay, all right. So they had a little photo op. Cool. And they sat down and they talked. They sat down and they talked, and that's good. And that's a good thing. Okay, this is a good thing because their talks were about the defense of Ukraine. It's a good thing. Trump is a child. Non sequitur. Trump is a child. And here he is whispering to Macron. He whispered to him on a hot mic. The dude simply, and I've said it a million times, he simply does not understand how recording equipment works, how microphones, running cameras, recording equipment, how these things operate. He's just still in the dark. He doesn't realize he's on a hot mic and starts whispering to Macron.
Great. Thank you for being on. Yeah, I think
to set up a trilat, you know. So,
and where do you want to do it?
I think he wants to make it. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand? I think as crazy as it sounds.
All right. I turned that up as much as I could. First, he used a little bit of like cool global leader lingo. Yeah, we're going to set up a trilat. Oh, you're so freaking cool, Don. You're so cool. But then he says, I think Putin wants to make a deal for me. That's what he said into the ear of Emmanuel Macron. I think Putin wants to make a deal for me. Like gossiping in the bleachers at school during lunch. I think Janie's going to go talk to Michael for me. I think he's really cute, and she's going to go talk to him for me. I think he's going to make a deal. Like, you're a child, bro. You're a child. So let's hear from some of these world leaders. All right, let's hear from some of these world leaders.
In a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine, and this is one of the key points that we need to consider, and we're going to be considering that at the table also, like who will do what. Essentially, I'm optimistic that collectively we can reach an agreement that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine, and I actually think there won't be. I think that's even overrated, largely overrated, but we're going to find out. And I think that the European nations are going to take a lot of the burden. We're going to help them, and we're going to make it very secure.
So I told you how bizarre this was to me, that it is considered a concession that Russia will allow these countries to get together and create an Article 5 agreement to stem their aggression, their war, their violence. He's going to allow them. He's going to allow them. But there is something to be said for Russia not denouncing it outright. That is an important point. Although I don't consider it a concession, I consider it very hollow. It is important to note that Russia could have come out and said flatly, we denounce any Article 5-like agreement between these countries. So he didn't do that. So in that way, okay. But here's the rub. Here's the rub. A lot of analysts and certain presidents, I mean, you want to talk, Macron gets it. And we're going to highlight how Macron gets it. The dude gets it. Like maybe none of these other people do. But Macron highlights how untrustworthy other people have. But many people think this is too much like a NATO-style agreement. And many people are saying, listen to me, I sound like Trump, many people. We're talking about Washington, reporting out of the Washington Post, reporting out of the New York Times. This is what I'm talking about with many people. Certain reporting has come out saying, yeah, Russia might not even agree to this. They might not even agree to this pact. when asked about sitting down and talking about all of this, Russia with Zelensky, I mean, they're talking, Trump's out here, I'm going to make a deal. I'm going to make a trilat, right? I'm going to make a trilat. We're in control of this situation. The Kremlin, Yuri Ushakov, their foreign minister, said, listen to this. You want bet hedging. You want to hear somebody hedge their bets? You want to hear somebody say a whole lot without saying a thing? Listen to this. He said, quote, the idea that it would be advisable to explore the possibility of raising the level of representatives of the Ukrainian and Russian sides participating in negotiations. I mean, wow. What a commitment out of him. But some are thinking he's not even going to go for that. They're saying he didn't fight this war just to have thousands of European troops end up on his border in a NATO-style agreement. That's what Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, already said he would do. Although others are not being quite as committal about this agreement, Starmer said, yes, I'll put troops in Ukraine, in the Donbass, or wherever the boundary ends up being, whatever the border ends up being. If they come to a deal and, Zelensky ends up giving the Donbass, wherever that new border is, Keir Starmer's willing to put troops there. And they're saying that is not why why Putin fought this war. He didn't gain ground in Ukraine and fight against NATO terrorism just to have more European troops end up on his border. Some are thinking he's not even going to go for that. The whole crux of the deal, his big concession, might be none at all.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts. No fluff.
All right, so I'm just going to put a bow on this point, and we're going to listen to some of these world leaders. We're going to jump right into it. We got to keep it Oscar Mike around here, but something to remember. So an interesting point here on Putin possibly not ending up accepting this agreement, this defensive agreement we're talking about. If Putin ends up not agreeing to it, denouncing it, saying, I can't abide this, it lets Zelenskyy off the hook, at least, I think, in Trump's eyes. Because the new impediment to Trump's Peace Prize, adding another fake war that he wants to reel off to the press about wars he stopped, add number 7, right? Add number 7. He wants to add number 7 to wars he stopped. He needs the optics to improve on this quickly. And if Putin ends up not even agreeing to the agreement, the Article 5 style pact, now Putin is the impediment. Now Putin is the one making him look bad once again. And Zelenskyy doesn't even have to begin to negotiate the Donbass region if Putin won't even, 1, agree to a ceasefire, and 2, agree to security terms for Ukraine going forward. If they won't agree to either of these things, then Zelenskyy doesn't even have to address the topic of the Donbass. And he can sit and visit and talk and jump on phone calls and be reverent to Trump. Oh, and by the way, speaking of reverent to Trump, they must have... Zelenskyy himself said thank you to Trump 11 times. They peppered him, showered him with praise, thank yous, you're the man, inspiring, so great of you. They were all on the same message. Just suck up a little bit of your ego now, and it will work out for Zelenskyy later. That's our plan. Be nice. Like from Roadhouse, be nice. I want you to be nice until it's time to not be nice. So if Zelenskyy keeps playing this game and being nice and saying the right things and visiting the right people, meanwhile, Putin is just shooting down every single avenue of peace, well, Putin is now Trump's problem, not Zelenskyy. Takes all the pressure off of Zelenskyy. All the pressure. Let's hear from some of these world leaders. Trump is going to, this guy. So yeah, he's best friends with all these guys, and you know there was an awesome article out of Politico. I want you to go back and check out because I'm gonna have to skip over it today, talking about some of the more odd moments of this meeting. He talked about some of these leaders in the most bizarre terms. Clearly didn't know a thing about any of them, barely knew them, yet he says they're great friends. It's just very odd. Here's him with the Finnish president. He wants to extol the virtues of the Finnish president. Let's see him try to find him. That's right. He once again has a problem finding one of his very best friends.
President Stubb of Finland, and he's somebody that, where are we here? Huh? Where? Oh.
What?
You look better than I've ever seen you look. But you've done a great job, and we wanted to have you here.
You're better than I've ever seen. Okay, so you saw when he looked over, when he finally found him. He must have been sitting way over on the back or down the, right? He must not have been real close to Trump because Trump had to look around. He's looking, he finds him over there somewhere, right? Right? Wrong. That is Stubb right there, 5 feet from Don, looking him in his face. And Trump's having all the, and you look better than I've ever seen you. This is the first time you've seen him, Don. You didn't remember him. You don't know him. That's the first time you've seen him. You're such a bullcrap artist, bro.
The giant name tag in front of him. I mean, if that's not a dead giveaway, I don't really know what is. It just says it right there.
Well, I mean, a prerequisite for that to be an aid to you is literacy, Scott. So, I don't know.
That's a good point.
I mean, look, I'm not saying anything one way or another, but I'm saying I'm not the one having a problem reading a name tag 5 feet from my face. Yeah. Oh, you look better than I've ever seen you. That is the first time you've seen him. That is the first time you've seen him. All right, let's continue.
So we're happy that we have such big unity today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much,
for hosting us.
Mr. President. I think you'll see that President Putin really would like to do something else. I think when we set that up, when we do, I think it's going to be when, not if. I think you're going to see some very really positive moves.
He starts to riff. Ukrainian lives are at stake, and he starts to riff. But there's Zelenskyy. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Like he thanked him 11 times. Thank you. More from Zelenskyy.
Thank you so much. I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points. The first one is security guarantees. And we are very happy with President that all the leaders are here, and the security in Ukraine depends on the United States and on you and on those leaders who are with us in our hearts. They have been online before yesterday, and etc. So a lot of countries on the side of Ukraine, our people, and all of us want to finish this war, stop Russia and stop this war. We spoke about it, and we will speak more about security guarantees. This is very important that the United States gives such strong signal and is ready for security guarantees. The second point, or maybe the first, humanitarian direction, very important to exchange all the prisoners, and I think that President will help. And I was very thankful to your wife again, Mr. President, for the letter about our abducted children, and I hope that really it can be a historic role for the people to bring kids back.
I played that whole clip for a few reasons, and it was long. But again, I told you I like to give him his platform. He's not heard from enough, and I like hearing from him. He's a real leader. And when given his platform this time, he said, first, it's important that we're having these talks about Ukrainian security, and it's extremely important. And thank you, Mr. Trump. It's extremely important that America has a strong stance in this. Then he said, two, we need our refugees back. We need our hostages back. The children that were taken, we need them back. All the Ukrainian citizens that were taken from us by Russia, we want them back. That's what he used his platform for. And he mentioned a letter. And thank you for President wife's letter. The letter he's referring to is a personal letter sent by Melania to President Putin, over the well-being of children. And she talked about the issue of child welfare being at the center stage of diplomatic efforts, and implored the Russian leader as a fellow parent to protect the innocent. That's basically what the letter was about. But I wanted to tell you that because he mentioned it. Thank you for the president's wife letter. And the children of Ukraine are not just on Zelensky's mind. Here's Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy.
Something is changing. Something has changed thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine.
Yep. Bravery of Ukrainians. Van der Leyen, she gets it. She gets it. Van der Leyen gets it.
Every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine, to their families.
Thank you. And we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history.
Excuse me?
That's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much.
This dude is a monster. That's fine. Anybody in the middle or anybody in the right that likes to watch me, you might not like me saying things like that. That might seem hyperbolic. She's talking about the children of Ukraine who were murdered and taken. Stolen children is what she's talking about. And he's like, yeah, but that's not really what we're here about. We're here about the big deal that we made. We made a big deal. Big business deal. That's what he wants to talk about.
I bet if they were talking about fetuses, he would care.
Yeah, that'd be a big topic.
Right?
Oh, for sure.
We want the stolen fetuses back, and he would be all on board. But once they're the children, hey, we made a great trade deal.
Yeah. What a strategic mistake by Van der Leyen, mentioning the children, not the fetuses. It's such a good point, dude. Such a good point. You dropped the ball on that one, Van der Leyen. Dropped the ball. Should have been fetuses. So, this whole time, Alaska meeting, this meeting, no ceasefire. I mentioned to you, hours after this meeting, bombs were dropped, missiles were shot, drones were dropped on Ukraine hours after this meeting with these EU leaders. There's no ceasefire. That is absolutely not in the cards, and Russia wants this to drag out as long as possible.
All of us would obviously prefer an immediate ceasefire while we work on a lasting peace, and maybe something like that could happen. As of this moment, it's not happening, but President Zelenskyy and President Putin can talk a little bit more about that. You know, in the 6 or so wars that we stopped, we haven't had a ceasefire, and so I don't know that it's necessary. You can do it through the war. But it would be, I like the ceasefire from another standpoint. You immediately stop the killing. But I believe a peace agreement at the end of all of this is something that's very attainable, and it can be done in the near future. With all of the wars that I got involved in, we only have this one left. Of course, as I walk out the door, there'll probably be a new one starting, and I'll get that stopped too. But I thought this was going to be one of the easier ones. It's actually one of the most difficult. They're very complex.
Yeah, we know it's more difficult than you thought it was going to be, Don, because you promised everyone, day one, this war is over, day one. Now you can't even get Putin to cease fire. You can't get him to agree to what he already agreed to. You're going to have a big problem getting him to sit down with Zelenskyy in a trilateral meeting. They're going to drag it out. And if you get them to sit down, you have the biggest problem of all. Getting them to agree to anything. And while all of this takes place, they continue the bombing, the drone bombs, the missile strikes, the push in the Donbass region, Luhansk, Donetsk, continues to be under siege, all while all of this plays out. But you're out here talking peace, not ceasefire, peace. That could literally be months away. And he knows it, and Putin knows it. And Frederick Merz gets it.
The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place.
So that was Merz doing his thing. He started with the ass kissing on the front end, right? He was on message with everybody else with kissing Trump's ass. We all have to kiss Trump's ass. That is the only way anything gets done, is by kissing this guy's ass. Everybody gets it. So he opened with that, and then he got to the ceasefire. Not everybody talked about a ceasefire. Not all these leaders talked about a ceasefire. I think part of the game plan between these leaders was don't push it. It's not even in the cards. Merz couldn't help himself, and I'm glad for it. Say it right to Trump's face. Make him responsible for a response to why he was unable to secure the ceasefire that he promised us under the threat of very serious consequences, because that is what Trump was talking before Alaska. He was talking very serious consequences if there's no ceasefire. He didn't mince words. There were no uncertainties in what he had said running up to that meeting. And he didn't secure it. Wasn't in the cards. It was never in the cards. And Merz is going to confront him with it on this grand stage. But there were let's just hear Trump talking about ceasefire in his own words.
It's going to be a good meeting, and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to be, I won't be happy if I walk away without some form of a ceasefire. I don't think you need a ceasefire. You know, if you look at the 6 deals that I settled this year, they were all at war. I didn't do any ceasefires. And I know that it might be good to have, but I can also understand strategically why, well, you know, one country or the other wouldn't want it. You have a ceasefire and they rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, and, you know, maybe they don't want that. But if you look at the 6 deals that we made peace and you know, long-term, long-running wars, I didn't do any ceasefires.
That's quite a difference. That's quite a difference. That's not leftist, libtard spinning of what he says. You're taking what he says out of context. He didn't really say that. That's not what he meant. I know the mental gymnastics you go through. No mental gymnastics needed. This is very obvious. The dichotomy is extremely obvious to anybody. He was talking ceasefire, and then he was talking peace. Not talking ceasefire anymore. He got his marching orders. Ceasefire was not in the bag, and he's just a bag man. Ceasefire was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. We're gonna wrap up this particular topic at the top of the next segment and get into some more crazy, bat-crap, crazy things that Trump is saying now, and his hypocrisy on display once again. To work for this administration, you have to be absolutely immune.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. Brett breaks things, where the stakes are high and the truth still matters.
I felt on the negative side, President Trump again has turned on a dime he's no longer supporting. a ceasefire. He's supporting something much more difficult that plays into Putin's hands, and that's a peace agreement, which is far, far away from where the two sides are right now. And I was disappointed in that because it rewards Putin and it rewards his aggression in Ukraine, and it puts President Zelenskyy in a very difficult position politically back at home.
Yep. It's exactly what we're talking about. But again, Zelensky's position could get easier if Putin does not even agree to the Article 5 style pact. If he denounces and pushes back from any European troops on his border or any defensive measures taken on behalf of Ukraine's security, now he is again the impediment to Trump's greatness. And that is a problem for Putin. That is a problem for Trump. And it eases the problems for Zelenskyy. Now, before I move on from this, I told you Emmanuel Macron gets it. He said some interesting things at the dinner. We had to keep it moving. But I wanted to read to you some things he said after, okay? And then we're going to keep it moving. But here's what Macron had to say about chances for peace, things he thinks about Putin. When I look at the situation and the facts, I don't see President Putin very willing to get peace now, Macron told NBC Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker. But perhaps I'm being too pessimistic. He also said the optimism of your president is to be taken seriously. So if he considers he can get a deal done, this is great news. And we have to do whatever we can do to make this a great deal. So he doesn't want to piss Trump off with his comments. He knows this stuff gets to Trump's desk. He wants to be reverent to Trump while at the same time signaling he gets who Putin is. He gets it. There is an aggressor, which is Russia. There's a country which decided to kill people, steal children, and who refused a ceasefire and peace. So we cannot just create an equivalent situation between Ukraine and Russia. He said more, but I think that says it all. Macron gets it. He gets who did this. He gets who can end this. He's on the right side, unequivocally, right? He's committed. That's a good thing for Ukraine. It looks like Merz is committed. It looks like Meloni's committed. So we'll see what that commitment looks like, substantively. We'll see what it looks like in troops, armaments, supplies, humanitarian aid. That all remains to be seen, and we'll see if Putin even gets on board with that. We'll see if he even gets on board with that. Trump couldn't help himself. He had to grind up that culture war axe once again in front of the whole world. He just can't help himself. But this time, what he got talking about, well, there could be some there. Yeah, let's hear from him in his own words, and we'll get into what he's talking about.
Real quickly, you pushed out on social media.
Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you expand on that and how important
Well, that's a very off-topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change are the machines. For all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster.
He continues, but we'll stop him right there. First, we're one of the only countries that use mail-in ballots. Those of you who support this guy, how do you feel about him either being wrong or lying to you every time he gets in front of a camera? He just says things. I already pointed out the just the inaccuracy of him saying he stopped 6 wars. I already pointed that out to you. Now he's saying we're the only country that uses them anymore. Actually, 40 countries still use mail-in ballots, and they're all the most sophisticated, modernized countries. Among them, Canada, UK, Germany, Australia, Switzerland. The list goes on. That's an easy one, Don. Sometimes Donnie throws me up some softballs. He just tosses them up there. That one's easy. 40 countries use mail-in ballots. Let's talk about the mail-in ballots. Let's talk about it. You know what? Because he's going to say some things. You know, we're going to hear from him. Hold on. Let's hear from him. Let's hear from him.
Real quickly, you pushed out on social media.
Brian, go ahead.
Oh, you know what? That was a repeat of that one. Here he goes.
Where some people get 5, 6, 7 ballots delivered to them. Now, we got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things. Otherwise, you don't have. We have strong.
And there it is. Because they are terrified that they are going to get washed in the 2026 midterms, they are trying to squeeze redistricting into Texas. And by the way, that situation is unfolding, and we will get to it. There's some really interesting developments in Texas right now at the state level. We'll get into all that tomorrow or the next day. Not sure when we'll get to it, but we will get to it. It is definitely developing. So not only are they waging war with gerrymandering, here he comes. Why is he talking about this? Because in 2024, they led a charge to get mail-in voting more acceptable, palatable to the Republican voter. And it worked in some instances. They pumped $16 million in Pennsylvania, and the numbers went through the roof, mail-in voting from Republicans. In Utah, every citizen is sent a mail-in ballot in Utah. Everyone. Just automatically. You get sent a mail-in ballot. They have pumped millions of dollars, the Republicans lately, into mail-in balloting. And now just like that, he feels like he can shave off a percentage of the voting base by doing this. It's all about rigging the system for their benefit. He wants to talk about Democratic policy. You're the one in charge of the executive branch, the House, the Senate, and the judiciary. You're in charge of all of it. You've got it all. It's not our policy the American people hate. It's your policy the American people hate, and you know it. And here you go again. But he is right about one thing. It will hurt Democrats more. Democrats have consistently used mail-in voting more than Republicans, especially during COVID-19. There was a big disparity in how much Democrats versus Republicans used mail-in voting. In the 2020 presidential election, 46% of all votes were cast by mail-in. It's a big percentage. It's a big percentage. And 59% of Biden voters voted by mail. 32% of Trump voters voted by mail. You want to know why he's waging war once again on mail-in balloting? Because he did this before. This is a rerun. This is a rehash. It's a throwback. He's done this before. There it is. That's all you really need to know. Only 32% of Trump's voters voted by mail-in balloting. So, are you a Republican who is living overseas? Are you a Republican that lives out in the outskirts in the boonies somewhere? Maybe it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to your nearest voting booth. Are you somebody who doesn't own their own car because you live in a major metropolitan area and it's going to be a huge pain in the ass now to get down there and vote? Let me ask you this, Republicans, moderates. You know anybody disabled? Got any family members who are politically active, aware, but disabled? You figure it out now. Figure out how to get them down there or make them figure it out themselves. Shut-ins, introverts, people who just don't like to go out in public. All of you. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. So many expats are red. They are. Lots of expats are red. you better come home. Because he's trying to ban it all. And by the way, he's acting on this. This isn't just bluster. As he says in his words, the executive order is already being written up by legal minds better than mine. Every mind is better than yours, Don. So, 32% of Trump's voters voted by mail. Now you all have to get up and get your ass down to the voting booth because your dear leader is afraid of losing the 2026 midterms. Plain and simple, he doesn't give a crap about you. He doesn't care. And he used the biggest stage in the world to tell you.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.